Yeah, not too bad. I'm amazed that you know who I am.
I was
Boris
just
Johnson
a way to
doesn't.
say, who are you? For people that don't know, who are you?
Oh. I've no idea.
Have you no idea? But you've got away with it for some time, not knowing who you are. You've done well out of it.
You're looking really well. You look good. I like all this.
Oh, do you know something? I am so fat. I wanted to talk to you about WW because I downloaded the app. I cannot work it at all.
Oh, really right. We have to have a station.
No, could you send help? Could you send help?
I will send.
Please, I think her name's Susie. Is she your coach? Because I follow her. She's spoken to me a couple of times. But I am a fat bastard, Lorraine, and I really need help. Oh, no, honestly.
You're not a fat bastard.
Like, I know Boris doesn't know me either, but, you know, I'm a Teletubby, love. And I need to get back in a tankini. So I need help because I can't. Because I emailed them the other day and I went, I'm about to go on the keto diet because I don't understand this. And they went,
no, don't go on that. That's horrible. That does bad things to your innards. It is quite difficult initially, but see once you get, I mean, it is all about just getting, as long as you can put in your foods and what you're doing and what you know, once you get that in, then it's fine.
What I'm struggling is the point thing I understand, and I know what my allowance is, but it's when they go, put in this and you put in chicken dansack and then it comes up with Jean from Kidderminster's chicken dansack that's like 3 points and you're like, who is Jean? What is Kidderminster? Exactly. And I don't want almonds.
I'm concerned that you know Lorraine's coach and all the rest of it. You sound like a stalker.
Well, do you know what? I've stalked Lorraine on and off for years. She fully understands. You know, we're technically both young ladies from Dundee.
Oh, this is very true.
But that's the thing, isn't it? That people always think because of your Dundonian husband and a presence in Dundee for many years that people think you're Dundonian.
Yeah, they do, which is fine.
Which is fine.
Happy.
And you've done...
I'm originally Glasgow, but yeah.
And then you were East Kilbride.
East Kilbride, Glasgow until...
Is that Weight Watchers? Same as fat.
That's Susie. Shut up.
Oh, I'm surprised Smidgen isn't joining in with this. Smidgen, can you hear?
She's above this.
Oh, I love that. A riot of dogs.
You little jobby, right? Will you behave yourself?
Hello.
We're trying to be professionals here, baby.
Oh, we're busy. Hello. Have you got her living with you permanently now?
Yeah, well, just until Rosie, she's working at Hello Magazine, and then she also has two dog like a baby, and she's also working for Times Radio, so the hours are a bit weird.
Right.
So she's looking for somewhere in London, but I'm dead happy having her here. But she's only been here for about 3 weeks.
Right.
But hopefully she won't find anywhere, and then Ruby can just stay here with me.
Yeah. Forever. And she gets on with Angus.
Oh, yeah, look at her kissing.
You're annoying, aren't you? You're quite annoying. But you are beautiful. I'll take you out for a walk in a minute. Just quiet.
So just going back to the Boris thing and whatever, because you had the scoop last week, didn't you, with Angela Rayner? Yeah,
that was really nice. Angela Rayner, this is what's really lovely about having been doing the show for so long, is that there's that trust thing. Mm-hmm. And she knew that if she came on, that, you know, I'm not going to... It's a difficult thing. It's a wee bit like yesterday's interview with that Susanna did with Boris Johnson, which was brilliant. Yeah. And it was brilliant because she let him speak. She wasn't trying to point score. Mm-hmm. She was just trying to get to the heart of the matter. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't kind of two alpha males. You know what I mean? Yeah, It was a forensic, really intelligent interview. She'd absolutely done her homework. And he was on the ropes. Mm-hmm. Because he's broad strokes, you know, he's not attention to detail. So it was really interesting. And I think sometimes I think it's fair to say that an awful lot of politicians, particularly men, they underestimate daytime in the way that they underestimate, you know, like maybe commercial radio, but they definitely underestimate breakfast time and daytime. I've had that all my career. It's actually quite useful.
Yeah. Yes. I love that you say that Boris doesn't have attention to detail, which is exactly, I mean, how on earth he doesn't know who you are. It's like,
I think that it's just that.
I said to Bruce, I'd be...
too. I don't expect him to.
I said to Bruce, I'd be furious if he didn't know who I was.
Yeah, but he doesn't know who you are.
Realising, of
you have
course,
to
he doesn't.
drop it, for goodness sake. No, what I wanted to ask you about the Angela thing was, that was all compared to Basic Instinct. And I remember going back to the Lee Francis programme, Bo Selecta, where you were one of the characters. And I'm not going to go into too much detail, but it was fairly graphic. Well, it was that whole kind of Seema Growler thing. And I never understood it, to be honest with you. Did you complain back then? Did you say anything?
No.
You know, do you speak to him now?
I didn't complain. I should have actually. I should have. To be honest, I never saw it. I genuinely didn't, because I didn't watch the show. And I was actually very, very upset at the portrayal of Craig David, because I adore Craig David. He's like, he's like the son I never had. I absolutely adore him. He's the kindest, loveliest man. And that absolutely derailed his career. I mean, there is no question of it. Of course, he's a brilliant artist and got over it. But for a few years, that did badly affect him and his career. And with me, I've just found it was really distasteful. It was really horrible, and I should have complained. I should have complained at the time, and I certainly would complain now. I think any woman would. I mean, it's different times. But the portrayal of everybody was actually very cruel on that show. I was certainly not, you know, I was one of many. And nobody sort of came out of it particularly well. And it was a different time, but that doesn't really excuse it. It really was horrible.
I remember people saying, well, we had Nick Eade on the show, and he was very friendly with Mel B at the time, and that really affected her. But
that was horrible. I mean, you'd never get away with that now, though. You'd never get away with that.
No.
Absolutely not.
What was the point of it? Was it just to drag people down? Was it just to undermine and to bully? What was the entertainment value supposed to be?
I think it was meant to be an irreverent look at celebrities and have them as kind of really exaggerated versions of themselves.
Yeah, and that's fine. Listen, they can take the piss out of me as much as they like.
Course.
I don't care. I genuinely don't. But I just think that crossed a line. And certainly when you look back on it now, from, you know, the way that I think people have all changed and moved on, as we all have to, it's shocking, actually.
Yeah, because I remember he'd done Michelle, and I'm not even going to say what he did with the Michelle, and I just thought that's so unnecessary. It's so base. You know,
so we're in a better place now. Although there's still, you know, when you see things like Angela Rayner, and you hear comments like that, and the fact that she had to come on my show and she said I'm deliberately wearing her trousers. So Caroline Noakes, the Tory MP, the day before, we were actually talking about HIV shortages, but we obviously talked about what happened with Angela. And she said, I'm sitting here talking to you, and again, she had made the conscious decision to wear trousers because in order to be taken seriously, or in order not to distract. For God's sake, it's 2022. I mean, really, this is not good. The only thing that is good is that it has got people going, what? What's going on? You know, and that's great. And I think that's where certainly programmes like mine, and certainly daytime generally, can hopefully push the debate on in maybe a way that others don't or can't. So that's one of the things that I love about my job, that we can highlight things and move on the conversation.
But that's exactly the fact that it does highlight something that people didn't even realise was a problem or an issue, or, you know, I don't know what you're complaining about. People don't look at you like that, or, you know, so for something like that to happen and for it to blow up like that is a really good way to go. This is what we deal with.
Absolutely, it sparks the conversation. And I mean, you know, when my daughter came home from Singapore, she lived in Singapore for about, almost 4.5 years, and then came back home just the first lockdown. She came back just before that all really, you know, came down. She had to isolate and all the rest of it. Of course she did. But I had to come up with a conversation with her that I found quite heartbreaking, actually, which was, this is not Singapore. You cannot walk home on your own. You know, you can't leave your drink in the bar. You can't do all of these things. And of course, she's in London, but equally, if she was in Glasgow, Aberdeen, Birmingham, Manchester, Newcastle, and Belfast, I would have had the same conversation. And that's terribly sad, you know, telling young women that that's how it is. And that's really, and it's only when you're in that position that you know, and we've obviously had the high profile, dreadful tragedies of young women getting murdered, getting attacked and all of this. And it is just really, really sad. There has to be a real a real sea change, I think.
There has to be a
and
shift.
I thought we were getting it, but then it's like, it's like one step forward, kind of 2 steps back sometimes. That's how it feels like. But we've just got to keep talking. And I know that women of my daughter's age will not stand for the kind of things. For example, you talked about that show. That generation wouldn't stand for that. Quite rightly.
My youngest is 19, and and she dresses the way that she feels that she wants to dress. That
And
makes
so
her
she
feel
should.
comfortable, and so she should. But it is, I think, a generational thing. And I'd had a conversation with Finn, going, because she looks amazing, but I worry for her because she looks amazing, and that and she's very the confidence and the real strength of just going, it's my body, I'll wear what I want, and and nobody can tell me that I can't, and nobody has any right to do or take anything from me. And it is that thing that is I'm so proud of that generation that I just didn't have that confidence to go and would go if somebody had inappropriately touched me or said something, go, oh well, I was dressed like that, so it was my own fault. That the younger generation go, absolutely not.
I know.
Get
It's
away
good,
from
isn't
me.
it?
And it's brilliant. I'm like, go tell them.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So
I think they've got a lot more. There's a lot more pressure in a way that I didn't have. Thank God I didn't have social media when I was growing up, or when I first started on TV, because I would have been absolutely slaughtered. And as a lot of people do, and I would have found that very, very difficult to deal with. So they've got a whole new thing to deal with in that respect, and that's not just
absolutely
that happens to people that are on TV. That happens to people. That just happens to women, particularly women generally. Although it happens to young men as well, sadly. And that's. I hate to see that. I hate to see that cruelty. Because before, I had a little bit of being bullied at school. Not terribly bullied, but I was. But when I get home into my house with my mum and my dad and my wee brother, that was it. Nobody could get me. Whereas they can get you now 24/7 on that device, and it's very simple to say, oh well, don't go on social media, but kids, they've grown up with it. It's part of their life, and the way that I guess we grew up with Bunty and Twinkle magazine, if you're of a certain age.
Some of us still do.
But also very much we were brought up as boys and girls, and I see my daughter with the conversations and the friendship groups that she has, that's really mixed group, that the conversations that young boys and girls or men and women have together are much more open and honest, and and together than because I always stuck to my girls, and the boys were this kind of sort of, we didn't quite know who they were, and it was all quite exciting. But the conversation, there was very little dialogue that was real between boys and girls when I was growing up. It's much better now with the younger ones.
See, I feel I was a bit of a trailblazer, having been a Jessie before even I was conceived. I was just in the ether, just reading people to filth. And and I always remember, because like at playtime in primary school, I used to play Dynasty with Angela.
Obviously.
Well, clearly. And you know who I was.
Yes.
Well, of course I do.
Bitch, please. But that was the thing. And my mum used to get really upset about it. And then I remember we'd been to London.
Were you Alexis?
Alexa? Yes.
Of course.
Sean, I know a makeup artist. I've met her. I've had her cheese. That's not a euphemism. I remember being at the Festival Theatre and we got asked backstage, and she because you've interviewed her a couple of times. And
I love her.
My niece is the same age as Rosie, and I always said to Katie, I said, if a guy gives you any hassle, you kick him straight in the spadoobies and scream until the police come. And she went, thanks, Uncle Bruce. That's great advice. But I remember being there, and she came in, and Katie went like that. She went, oh, you can tell what that phrase, they've got something about them. Because she's tiny and she marches in and she means business. PLB, public ladies business.
Yes.
And I remember, I don't know if I've said it on here before, and Katie went, you have to go and get your photo taken with her so we can send it to Auntie Mar, because obviously it's the people in Dundee that want to know what's going on. And I said, oh, Katie, I'm too fat. And she said, well, you're a year too late with that one, go and get your photo. So Alan said, don't touch Joan, don't touch the dame, right? Because, I shouldn't say this, but I will. Apparently she wears that long Vivienne Westwood ring, not for arthritis reasons, but Linda Evans apparently stood on her finger during a fight. So you're not allowed to, you're not allowed to shake her hand. So of course I'm like that, because I'm 3 bottles of Prosecco's in. I'm like, hello, Dame Joan. And so she put her arms around me, and I went, what are you doing? She went, I'm trying to find my light, darling. And the light was the front of the vending machine, and that's where we got our photo taken.
She found it. Well, that's that is the definition of a diva.
Absolutely.
That's the definition. Women who knows.
And lovely big Percy. He was lovely. Oh no, she doesn't give a shit.
No, she doesn't.
No,
Why should she?
nor should she. She's Joan Collins.
Exactly. I think you get to a level of success that you can afford not to give a
You
shit.
do whatever you want.
Now, the funny thing is, Lorraine, when you began, did you ever think you would join that elitist club of females who are only known by their first name? Nigella, Kylie, Madonna, Lorraine. I know not in Downing Street. We can move on. But, totes. Because when you began, your image was so different because you had the big kind of Deirdre Rashid lunettes. Do you remember? And God bless Anne Kirkbride, one of this nation's greatest actresses as far as I'm concerned.
Do you know that I got a mention on Coronation Street with those glasses? It was the first time ever.
Really?
I honestly, I couldn't believe I couldn't believe, first of all, that anybody in Coronation Street would know who I was. And Deirdre goes into an optician's and says, I want glasses, little lady.
Oh my. But you've been mentioned in Coronation Street a few times. And you're a big fan, I'm a big fan. That's high praise.
I was shot in the leg with an arrow.
Sally Webster.
It was amazing. By Gail.
Gail.
By Gail. Yes, it was Gail. Sally's too nice. Gail shot me in the leg with an arrow. And it was the silliest, maddest thing in the world. It was like I crawled into my TV. But yes, you were talking about what I used to look like. It was the 80s in my defence.
Oh, I'm not saying there was anything wrong with it. I'm just saying you really have had a style.
It was terrible. When I look at this now, I look older than I do now. But that was what the 80s were like. But you say image, I didn't really ever think like that. I just was always, especially when I was a reporter, I was always getting into trouble as a reporter on telly for not looking polished.
Right.
Because for me, the big thing was I had to get the story. That was the main thing. And I was on my own, which in some ways was a good thing. It's just you and you just got on with it. But the last thing in the world I would be thinking about would be what I looked like. And if you look back at some of the footage, you can see. So I found it really weird when I was asked to come down and be on the telly that there was all that, your hair and your makeup and clothes and all of that. And I've never really been that comfortable with that because out of work, I don't wear any makeup. My hair's up in a wee ponytail most of the time and it's tracksuits. I'm not great at fashion. I'm interested in it. I think it's fascinating.
Well, I remember in your book, it was the first year of the snow, and me and the dog had book club in 2011. And the two books I got that year was Between Me and You from Loza, because I call you Loza. And the other one was My Story, Danny Minogue. She blocked me on Twitter. Have a word, we'll move on. And I remember living in Leith, eating cheese, reading those books. And I remember your quote was, I've always been more Georgia Asda than Giorgio Armani.
Absolutely, that's true. Isn't there nothing better than going to the supermarket for a loaf, a pint of milk, and then you go, oh my God, I can buy a frock.
Yeah, my friend did it yesterday in Nutmeg and Morrison's in Granton. A tunic, lovely.
There you are.
£12.
There's something very good about that.
I have, it might be a stupid question, I don't know.
Oh, I don't know. They often are. Continue.
Yeah, I apologise in advance. Yeah.
She's a busy woman. You've no idea. The voices.
The abuse I have to take, Lorraine.
The word salads that we have to differentiate.
Oh, wheeshed your mouth.
Continue.
Anyway,
use your words.
No, I'm just very interested because you interview, so when you're saying interviewing Joan Collins a couple of times, that all the different people that you interview, A, how much influence do you have over people that you interview? And B, what do you do if you have to have an interview with somebody that you genuinely don't like?
Right. Well, that's a great question because obviously there's going to be people that you don't. I would never ban anyone because I'm not into banning anything. The only person that I actually genuinely wouldn't have on the show is Katie Hopkins, and that was years ago. She's a busted flush now. She was then. Mm-hmm. Nobody's interested in what she has to say. Mm-hmm. I don't see the point of having somebody on who just basically spouts hate.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Nonsense, right? So
she's like a pantomime villain, isn't she?
Yeah, sheer panto, and I can't be bothered. Life's too short. And why give someone like that the oxygen of publicity? But I would never. I mean, that aside, because I actually think that person's dangerous. Is no, I have spoken. Weirdly, I always have an open mind, and it's always a real disappointment if it's somebody that you really, really like and admire. I mean, I say you really like, I mean, you really like their work, because of course you don't know the actor or whatever. You don't really. And that's always a little bit of a disappointment. There's people you know are going to be tricksy.
Right.
And you know that. So you have to be really on top of your game. But I do have, like, I mean, you know, we're always, it's a democracy and it's a small team, and we'll just all throw ideas around, and you know, we have a list. Obviously a lot of it's dictated by who's in town. Like Benedict Cumberbatch this week was here because obviously there's the big movie, the Doctor Strange movie, and we were lucky enough to get one of the slots to interview him, and he was, as you would imagine, absolutely brilliant. And I would have been devastated if he'd been horrible. I really would. It would be awful. But most people, let's be honest, you know, really, they're on to sell something. So by and large, they're going to be very nice to me. What I really object to is if they're not very nice to my lovely team or my crew, because that's unforgivable, absolutely unforgivable, to be rude or disdainful of the person who is doing their job to make you up or whatever it may be. But by and large, people are nice. Harrison Ford was grumpy, but I just think I got him on a wrong day. And if you talk to somebody who maybe has made a movie that they don't really believe in anymore, it hasn't turned out right or something like that. Bruce Willis is very difficult because I think he's bored with the whole process. I know he's more or less tired now through health reasons, but he wasn't, you know, you could just tell that he just couldn't be bothered. He just couldn't be bothered. And then on the other hand, you have somebody like, say, Tom Hanks, who knows that he's got to do this and makes it really enjoyable for everyone, because he says, look, I've got to do this. This is part of the deal. I know I've got to go and publicise my movie. I might as well have a good time.
Yeah.
And you might as well have a good time.
Yeah, why make it difficult for everyone?
The best attitude, don't you think?
That's interesting what you're saying about your team, because that is one of the few good lessons my parents gave me, was that always look, if you're with somebody, always look at how they treat the staff to get an insight as to their personality. Do you know what I mean? So if they're rude to bar staff or, you know, waiters or anything, it really is a shortcut into somebody's nastiness.
You're so right. So right, and I worked as a waitress, I've worked in a bar, I know what it's like. It's the hardest bloody job in the world. And people can be really, really disdainful of you. And I can't. You're right. If anybody was like that, I can't be bothered with.
Going back to the single name club, were you nervous? Were you nervous? I'm trying to float Bunty, by the way, not the magazine, just my nickname. No, were you nervous when you went to meet the big O?
Oh gosh, yes.
Were you?
That was. Oh, you kidding me?
No, because the way that I would look at it is, I'm Loza. This is my shizzle. If she doesn't like me, she can do one.
No, she was. Again, if she hadn't turned out to be what I thought she was, I would have been absolutely distraught. I took along one of my producers with me because he adored her, and he literally sat in the corner sobbing. He was so happy because she was so nice. And she was chatting away. She was really exactly what you would expect. Very intelligent, no nonsense, but very warm and friendly. It was for the movie that she did. The movie about the butler in the White House, you know, all the different, and it was a true story. It was a fantastic. I think it was just called The Butler, actually, and she was in that, and that was great. She was, she was a sort of masterclass in how to put people at ease, because of course everybody around about her is all like this, you know, and quite in awe as they would be, and she just sets the tone. It's that thing of setting the tone. And making everybody feel happy and comfy. It was lovely.
Is she one of your pinnacles, or are there other great mountains you wish to scale in terms of people?
Yeah, definitely.
Could you have a word with Madonna for the good of the world and just say, "Hen, I love you"?
I think Madonna would be an amazing, obviously amazing person. It wouldn't be easy.
No.
I nearly interviewed Lady Gaga, but we were waiting for her. Now, we were waiting for hours. It was a long time ago. It was, it must be about 5 or 6 years ago. And we were going to pre-record it after the show. And all of my crew were up at 3 a.m. I mean, they're there for a long time. They need to get home to their beds. And by 1 o'clock in the afternoon, when she hadn't appeared, we just kind of gave up and thought, let's go home. But that's nothing compared with Ross King, who waited for Ozzy Osbourne for 3 days. Ross, I'm really sorry he's not ready. Can you come back? And Ross is like, okay.
Oh my God. Because that happened. There was a David...
That's a record, right?
there was a David Bailey documentary and he was interviewing Kate Moss. He was doing his things with the models and he said, Kate, you're always a couple of hours late. And she was like, oh, it's just in my DNA. She went, but I'm not like Naomi. And he went, well, no, she's like 3 days late.
Wow.
She turns up 3, 4. Have you interviewed her?
I interviewed Kate Moss years and years ago, and I think it's one of the very, very few interviews that she's done, broadcast interviews that she's done. And she was really sweet and really quiet and really, like when you see, she was very quiet and then when you see her in front of a camera, like taking still photographs or walking down a catwalk, you go, wow. Yeah. And anybody that's trying to walk down a catwalk, you just think, oh, we're going to say they're paid fortunes and all their dreams, put one foot in front of another. I mean, most of us, and certainly me, galumph. We just galumph. We don't have that.
I've got a wide gate. I mean,
some of them look like... I've got a very sturdy
We're of comely actually. Peasant stock.
We have.
We should be carrying water to an emergency on our shoulders, not skipping around in Louboutins.
They do. I mean, it's, but Naomi Campbell, I think I interviewed her. Remember, she brought a novel out.
Swan.
Oh, yes. Good for that. Yeah. Very nice, again, there's a window, there's sort of glass pane in front of a lot of these people they hide behind, and I get that completely. Understand that.
How do you cope with your own celebrity and fame in terms of but generally but you're so accessible and so approachable, if you're just going about your day-to-day business, do people just feel that they can just come up and chat to you, or do people leave you alone, or what?
No, they do. I mean, I don't really get out much because I've got the social life of a toddler because I'm up early. But when I'm wandering around, I mean, what's the funniest thing is when, like, maybe Steve and I are going shopping or something like that, and people come up and start chatting away, and I can see the panic in his eyes because he thinks it's somebody that we know really well because they're chatting away to me and I'm chatting away to them. And I can see him going, I don't know this person's name. I don't know. And at the end of the conversation, bye. And he goes, how do we know them? And I go, no, we don't. And I go, thank God. Because he would be going, I don't know, I don't remember. So, no, but people are very nice and they're very kind, and they do come up and just say, and they're always really, and I think that's lovely. And when people say to me they feel that they know me primarily because I've been on the telly for, nearly, about 38 years or something mad like that. Because I started in breakfast telly in 1984, which is bonkers, before even mobile phones were a thing.
Because it was just you and Christopher Biggins on the TV in those stages.
It was.
3 channels. You were on 1, he was on 2.
Biggins, hilarious, isn't he? He's absolutely hilarious.
Oh, she likes to drink.
Another good survivor.
Yes. Yeah, but did you expect your career to last as long? Did you want it to last as long? Did you want it to go where it's gone?
Well, gosh, I'm very lucky in the things that I've been able to do and the things that hopefully I'll continue to do. I didn't ever have a plan, though. I mean, I certainly didn't plan to be sitting on a sofa. For me, I was always wanting to be a journalist. That's what I wanted to do, and being a correspondent covering my country for TVAM all those years ago was such a privilege. And it really was only because I covered things like the Piper Alpha disaster and Lockerbie. It was after Lockerbie that I got asked to come down and do the news hour, the 6 to 7 hour for TVAM. And from there, it's one of those things, isn't it? Right place at right time. And I always thought I was just going back, and then somebody went off on an extended holiday. Somebody left, and I just filled the gap for a while. And then I think eventually they just thought, oh, well, we might as well just keep her there. Really. And then I've had so many regime changes. It's been crazy when you think of all the different name changes and different stations, but essentially the job's the same. It's storytelling, it's telling people's stories.
But it is that connection with people, and I think you can't buy that, you can't learn it, you can't fake it. So you can, and I think if people always want to hang on to the familiarity and the recognition.
I think you're right. You're absolutely right. And I think certainly during lockdown that was something.
Yes, comfort, isn't it?
I was lucky to be able to work all the way through that. I mean, at one point we did have a camera in my living room just in case, like Gogglebox, just in case we weren't able to go into the studio, because we weren't, because things were grim. That first lockdown, it was grim. I mean,
and
it was
so
really
uncertain. I mean, and ever changing,
it was. And you're right.
And panic and
familiarity was good. Yeah. being able to work was great because that gave me structure in the day that a lot of people didn't have, and that was excellent. And we always tried in our show anyway to try, even though it was, we were telling people dreadful things were happening, always trying to find a wee bit of light. Like maybe it was the kids doing amazing things, or taking cakes to the hospital, or doing marathons, or running, or in Captain Sir Tom, and all these things. So there was always a little bit of light, whilst of course, never shying away from just how serious and how scary it was, but at the same time trying to find a little bit of hope, because I think that's awful important as well.
Well, that's what we all need, isn't it? It's that, and also because the old tragedy plus time equals comedy. You need comedy to get through some of the...
listen, but you have to have a sense of humour in order to cope with this world. I mean,
I know.
really do. And anything that we do, we try to do that. Even we're doing a campaign just now about bowel cancer. And of course, our Deborah, who's got stage 5 bowel cancer, who's launched this campaign, who is amazing. And Deborah always has humour. Yeah. You have to, especially when you talk about your bottom. It's got to be funny, isn't it?
And I think it is, the more that you can kind of like, it takes the power away, it takes the fear away. I think that's it. Comedy takes the fear away. So
I'm a bit tired of talking about bottoms. I've come across some very nasty ones in my life.
Let's not go down that mucky road again.
You mentioned you have to stop saying that word mucky.
I love it. Well, especially
maybe it's because you're dirty.
Especially in reference to you, Mr. Devlin.
What was it? So you mentioned like covering your country, and you are a proud Scot, and you've done... I think there has been no one who's done more for the rehabilitation of the image of Dundee. You brought so much attention. No. I would agree with that wholeheartedly. Do you miss living in Scotland? Because for years you were commuting up and down. You're not living... Because you were in Dundee when the venue was open in Lochee and all that kind of stuff, weren't you? Yes. Cider and black.
Thank God there was no...
Oh, I know. Thank God my dog can't talk. I'd be in jail.
Exactly. No, I love Dundee. My husband's very... proud Dundonian, and of course we lived in Dundee for a long time. We lived right in the centre of Dundee, and then Broad Ferry, which is Dundee, for a long time, and I absolutely loved it. And I go home as often as I can. My mum and dad are still there, but it was just from a practical point of view. Now that I do 5 days a week live. Before I could pre-record some shows, but I don't anymore, obviously with the way things are in the world and with the pandemic and everything. So it just wasn't really practical. And of course, during the pandemic, we couldn't. So many of us didn't. I didn't see my mum for months. In fact, it was about a year before I saw my mum. It was awful. Thank God for Zoom and all that. But yeah, I do. I miss it. I miss the people. I miss the sense of humour. But I'm up a lot. I mean, I'm going to Orkney later on this month, and I go there every year. I wasn't able to go, obviously, again during the pandemic, but Orkney is just where I go, and it's like, wow, this is great. I can feel the stress oozing out of my body. I love it there. I could live there very, very happily. Very happy. Especially as there's a place called Twat in Orkney.
Oh, is there?
Oh,
wonderful.
Oh, nice. I know a few of the inhabitants. Coming from a long line myself.
It is a gorgeous part of the world. Everything about it I love. I just think it's sophisticated, cultured, gorgeous. It's so much to do, so much to see. I've been going there for it must be about 25 years now, and I still haven't seen everything.
Yeah.
Take a whole lifetime to see everything. It's beautiful.
My father wrote a book about Orkney called Against the Wind. It's because he lived in Stronsay.
He lived in Stronsay? Right, I need to read that. I thought I'd read them all. Right, I need to read
Against the Wind by Douglas Sutherland.
Fantastic, thank you. See, every day's a school day.
Isn't it? We're always learning.
About what I do. Every single day I learn something.
With live television, have you realised, has it changed since the pandemic and the restrictions, that live television now feels like people are less nervous of being on live TV and allowing sort of incidents and accidents that, that famous one where the guy was trying to do an interview and his wife came in chasing after the kids. And have you felt that there's less... Because there's so much pressure. I know, so much pressure on live television to kind of get it right. Do you feel it's changed, that people aren't as stressed with live television because of Zoom and everything have accepted, we'll see the kids running past without their nappy on,
Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I think you're right. I think that's a really good point. I hadn't thought about that, but I think you're absolutely right. People still it's really interesting. People still get very nervous about doing it. And for us, we do it every day. It's our reality. It's what we do. It's absolutely fine. But you do, and really big stars. Like I remember Ray Fiennes came on the show, a brilliant actor, absolutely fantastic actor, and he hated every single moment of it. He just found it very nerve-wracking when he didn't have a part to play rather than himself. I mean, he was a brilliant guest. He was fantastic, but you could see he was uncomfortable with it, and a lot of actors are very uncomfortable with doing live telly because they can't see cuts. Can we do that again?
Of course, they can't hide behind a character and the script.
Exactly, but I think, I just think when things go wrong, and things go wrong all the time. I mean, things go wrong on a daily basis for us. It's just hopefully you'll never perhaps see that it did. Like things like we were supposed to have, the lady that's in D.I. Roy, Parminda. We were supposed to have her. She was the actress that was in Benedict Beckham. She was in ER. And she was supposed to be on from LA, and it was all fine. It was all set. And she was going to be on Zoom. And she just never turned up. And she just got her time wrong. That was all. It was just a mistake with the times. That's fine. We just do something else. It's okay. We've got plans. We can move things around and it's fine. But things go wrong all the time. I think the best thing to do if things do go wrong is don't try that it's not happening. Just say, oh God. That's quite funny. Just
stand-up comedy, you kind of have to be in the room and address if it happens or something goes wrong.
Yes, the hardest job in the world. I don't know how you do it. I don't know how anybody does it.
I'm phoning it in these days. I don't care. I'm very blasé.
I could never in a million years of all the things that I think to myself, I wouldn't mind having to go at that. I could never do stand-up.
Would you go into
that would
politics?
be a challenge. I'm going to get you to do stand-up, Lorraine.
Honestly, love, I couldn't. I just know. I'd be so nervous. All those people sitting with their arms folded, waiting to laugh. Scary.
Try Christmas Day at Mary Devlin's house. It's a similar situation. Would you go into politics? Because I remember you were on Question Time once. But no.
No, I really wouldn't. I don't actually, to be honest, I don't know why at the moment people do go into public life. It's very, very difficult, especially for women, sadly. And I think it's so tainted now. It's so tainted. I kind of think I can do more sort of, on the outside pissing in than on the inside pissing out, if you know what I mean. I think certainly the pandemic has shown up who's good at communicating and who's a good leader. And regardless of politics, I think, never mind what your politics are, I think Nicola Sturgeon has been an amazing communicator and incredibly honest. And the great thing about her is when she comes on any show, including mine, including GMB and This Morning and all of the shows, she is honest. She's honest and she'll answer the question. She never shies away from that. And I wish more of them were like that. And I wish there wasn't all this one-upmanship and trying to trip people up. I mean, I want to hear what they've got to say. I always give people the chance to say, I mean, obviously I'm going to, it's got to be a conversation and a debate, but I think, and sometimes if they are horrendously awful, they damn themselves by the more they say, give them enough rope and all that.
No, absolutely. And you're absolutely right. Nicola Sturgeon does answer a question. I think that's the frustration around a lot of politicians. Just answer the question. You've been asked something. So,
she feels like Beck Cooper, like Ed Balls. I know Ed Balls isn't in politics anymore, but when he was, I mean, it's being a human being, and that's the trouble with an awful lot of them now. I don't know whether they think that maybe they get some sort of weird training. It's obviously the wrong training.
Absolutely. But it's so important.
Be a human being.
Be a human being, being accessible and answering the question that you've been asked. I mean, again, it is a matter of opinion whether or not you believe what that person's saying, but at least you have the choice to decide rather than
and it should be the viewers.
Question. Yeah.
Exactly. Or the listeners. It should be, or the readers. It should be up to them, but give people the opportunity to put forward their case and to actually answer the blinking question. And you know what? If you don't know the answer, it's okay. As people, a lot of interviews do this thing of point scoring. Tell me how many police officers we've got on the island of Skye. And actually, I don't know, but you know what? I can Google it in a minute. Do you know what I mean? They always try to sort of trip them up. And
catch them out and trip them up.
Of course. Yeah, they should know.
But the element of trust has gone, and I think because so many people have lied and been found to be lying, and as we continue on this journey, continual lies keep coming.
that's the one thing that I liked about Kay Burley asking people about breaking of restrictions, was she was the best person because she broke them herself. So I always thought that was really good. You know, you've got to have honesty from both sides. Hi, Kay. Hope you had a super sexy 60. Lorraine, you are twice decorated by our royal family. Your philanthropic work is too long to list. What's next?
Well,
is it binge drinking and blackouts?
Oh, we'll join you. That's where we're headed.
That's a given, isn't it? I would love to do more radio. I do a podcast with my little girl called What If, and I really like that. I really enjoyed that because we've just talked to people that have, again, it's people who have got amazing stories, you know, just brilliant stories to tell, and I absolutely love that. I'd like to do more of that. I'd like to do more radio, and eventually one day I will write that book. I will write that novel, and just for me, you know, it'd be wonderful if other people could read it as well and enjoy it. But I feel as if it's something that I've wanted to do for ages. But that's a proper real job. You know, that's demanding. That's hard. That's, you know, that's sitting in front of a blank screen and just, I mean, that's the joy of it. That's the excitement of it. But you need to give that 100%. And I'm definitely going to do that, hopefully sooner rather than later. That's what I would absolutely love to do.
Can we? Because as you know, this is called Be Honest. So we've had some questions in from listeners.
Oh, geez. Okay.
So thinking cap on, Jojo. Try and remember what we discussed in the car.
Well, it was Aldi or Lidl.
Well, yes. So be honest, Aldi or Lidl. Which do you prefer? That's a tough one.
I think Aldi, because you can buy anything in there. Like, you could actually buy an engine if you have a boat or an anchor and cheese and a crown and a tiara and a thing for your dog and maybe a dog. So probably the variety, I think, in Aldi is maybe more. Okay. Especially that bit in the middle where they have all the funny things.
Yes.
There's only ever
the
one of
aisle.
everything.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, you can get cashew nuts, failed comedians. That kind of
the aisle of non-style.
of madness. It's just wonderful. So yeah, I think Aldi for variety and surprise element.
And being honest, have you ever because you like me, you like a wee sherry. And
absolutely.
we know there's a very famous story of you pulling an all-nighter and then going into your work. But have you ever done anything that's embarrassed yourself in someone's house because you were a bit pissed?
Probably. The thing is, if you are
pissed, you don't remember.
You don't remember. And there is something about, there is something about being in somebody's house where you just relax, don't
safe,
you? And
isn't
you probably, and you guzzle a lot more than you would guzzle outside. Because I think I've always got that self-edit button in the back of my mind if I'm out and about. That you don't want to fall out of the taxi or you don't want to, do anything. But it's not so much embarrassing me because I don't really care about that, but I don't want to embarrass my wee girl.
No,
I don't want to.
No.
Well, no, mind you, I make a mission of that to embarrass my children. Has anyone ever double-crossed you? Has anyone ever, in a private time, taken advantage and sold a story to the paper or, you know?
Not really, because I'm so boring. So they would make something up. But no, not really. I forget friends. My friends are my friends that I've had really since school, most of them. My bestest friend I've known since I was 12. Or it's people that I really know very, very well. I'm quite private, believe it or not, and I'm quite quiet in company. Like, my husband's the life and soul of the party. He is absolutely, he's the man that you want. If things are kind of lagging, he's the person that will bring it all to life and all of that. He's really good, and I tend to be a bit quiet. And I think there's that wee working class thing, but you don't want to be a show off. Do you know what I mean? You don't want to be like, well, what did you do this week? I'm not likely to go, oh, well, I was out talking to Benedict Cumberbatch and I was out doing this and that, because I just think that's a little bit, it's that kind of Scottish thing of that's a wee bit showy offy.
No, absolutely.
You'd be called a bam pot, really, wouldn't you? They'd say, attention-seeking bam pot, no one's interested.
Oh, yeah, and everyone would be talking about you behind your back, going, oh, you see what she's put up now. Do you know what I mean?
But my pals are just my pals, and sometimes they'll say to me, I saw you with that one and what we like. But then, we go on to talk about Dundee United and how they're doing, our kids or our dogs usually. It's just it's good. It's good because I don't really have, if you like, show busy pals. Because my friends are like Mark Hayes, I don't consider.
I thought you were saying because they're all awful.
you know, because they're just like my pals, you know, okay, you might be off the telly, Mark and Dr. Hilary, but they're my friends, and Dr. Amir, they're just like...
How old is Dr. Hilary? Because he's still very handsome.
105.
Oh
He's
my
105
God.
years old.
But he's still well put together. He looks good.
He's fantastic. I think he's 67.
Really?
No.
Do you know that's all down to apple cider vinegar? Gargling.
Really?
Well, I don't know, but whatever he's doing, it's working.
Yeah.
And he's fantastic. I mean, he's helped all of us over the years, and especially during the pandemic. I mean, it is in the morning like a doctor's surgery. I mean, there is a queue of people, you know, saying to Dr. Lee, oh, that's so ill, this is so, and that's very, very reassuring, and just, voice of reason. He's a good man. He's a really, really good man, and always helps everybody out, which is great. You know, behind the scenes, just make a big fuss about it. You know, he's helped Kate a lot, and he's helped all of us, you know, if our friends or our family were worried about them. He's always really good like that. He's a good man.
Oh, do you know something? And it's the thing apart on. I watched the documentary about Kate and just thought, my God, you are remarkable. Amazing. That's just nothing amazing. Short of phenomenal.
She is incredible.
Yeah.
I don't know where she gets that inner strength. It is quite remarkable. And she, you know, their relationship has changed, you know, from being a wife, and she is now virtually a carer. But the love that shone out of that documentary, just the way that she looked at him, the way that he looked at her, the love is still there, very, very much so. And we're all just hoping that, you know, every single day, hopefully he'll get a little bit better. Yeah. It's going to be a long process. But certainly, you know, if you could measure it in love, he would, it will, I'm hoping that it will happen. But I think that's why all of us were so, COVID was struck home to us very, very early on, because, you know, obviously Derek was one of the first and one of the most badly affected by the whole thing. And that brought it home to us that, you know, for goodness sake, get your jabs and be careful and do, you know, follow the rules. And that's why I get so angry about when people don't, and especially with Partygate and all of that. And I know people, Partygate, we're fed up with that. Actually, no, we're not, because all of us that lived through it and saw what it did to families, you know, we've all know people who've been affected badly. And but Kate's she's a phenomenon. She really is. She's a great woman, and the strength is unbelievable.
Yeah. And can I ask one final thing? I still have the front cover of Boys magazine you were on dressed up as a New York cop. Revealing stuff about truncheons and poppers. If I get that to you, can you sign it?
Absolutely. Oh, totally. Wasn't that wonderful? I got a whole new fan base with that one.
But you were very open, because you kind of admitted to the fact that you enjoyed a horizontal refreshment al fresco.
Did you?
Oh, yes.
That was another life.
Oh, but that's
Lorraine Kelly. I'm giving you your two names now.
Lorraine, you could not be having extramarital affairs on mountains now. Oprah would go wild.
And they certainly went. Certainly with my husband, and it's all very definitely a one-off. Definitely. My goodness.
Isn't it nice to visit the past?
You
can't believe
it. That was such a long time ago.
Exactly.
We've all got that, and thank God, no social media.
Absolutely. You're like an elephant, you never forget.
Well, absolutely, I'm the size of an elephant, but that's the thing. No, I remember reading that thinking, wow, fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh,
I also mess with people, and sometimes I'm quite naughty.
Listen, the heart wants what the heart wants.
I can't believe we're going to. That's going to be a quote somewhere.
We've all
Lorraine
been horny.
Kelly and her horizontal refreshment.
horny
horizontal refreshment with breakfast goddess.
I know you're naughty, but you're very naughty. But that's fine. I think a bit of naughtiness is all right.
Absolutely, it
naughtiness
keeps the heart.
Is what we need.
Keeps the heart ticking. A sense of humour and
Yeah, right.
I know we're all just human beings trying
to getting one foot in front of the other. Oh.
Lorraine, it has been real and it's been fantastic.
Lovely.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That was really lovely. I'm now going to go and take my wee doggies out for a walk and talk to them, because they're wonderful listeners and they are never judging me.
Lorraine, do you know that woman that's walking up and down in the background? I'm wondering if she's taking stuff.
Oh, no. She's fine. She's just helping me out.
Oh, that's fine.
We're getting a wee extension, and I'm having to move things and sort of. In fact, I've told them to shush for a minute. But
Brilliant.
Lorraine,
Thank
lovely
you
to speak
so
to you.
much for joining us. An
I'll speak to you
absolute
soon.
pleasure.
Thanks for
I know,
your
it was
time.
great to talk to you guys. Take care of yourself. And if you need, message me and we'll get Susie to give you a wee call.
Oh, would you mind?
Help you, because she helped me through all of that. That's probably why I keep saying to everybody, the app's dead easy. It's because Susie
not.
sort of helped me through
Right.
it. And you do, you know what it's like with anything like that.
Yeah.
You just...
No, I will do that. Would be great because, as I say, I'm now into paying for it because my 2 months free have gone, and so I want to get value for money. I mean, the chip roll at midnight last night didn't help, but
Listen,
you know.
I honestly found it okay. I've lost about 1.5 stone since January because
Wow.
I put on so much weight. I put on an awful lot of weight very quickly over the pandemic with big chocolate plates at night. And Steve has got no sense of portion control.
Oh, neither do
You know,
I.
he just has this, I sometimes watch him cooking because I don't cook. He does everything. He's brilliant. And Rosie cooks as well. And I'm like, how many people are coming? And he's like, what are you talking about? It's only me and you. And I'm like, Steve, you've made enough to feed a bloody army. And then, of course, it's put in front of me and,
And we don't like waste.
No.
No, and it's brilliant.
How was the dip that you made on your Instagram Live? That looked nice.
It actually, I have to say, it was all right and I did eat it.
Oh.
And it was actually okay.
Okay.
So I can see you're shocked at the price.
Yeah, I didn't understand the tofu, but we'll talk about that later.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lorraine. See you soon, love. Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye.